Record will show that 4 members of the committee are here in chambers. Our 5th member, Alder McElhenney, is with us via WebEx. And I will also, for the record, state that it seems we have a quorum of the full council here, either here in person or on WebEx. As always, I welcome public comment and participation in our discussions. So if there's any agenda item that you'd like to speak to, when we get to that item, just raise your hand and you'll be recognized and come up to the dais, state your name and address, and we just go from there. First item of business is approval of the minutes from our meeting of September 1st of this year. Do I have a motion to approve? I have a motion from Watson. Do I have a second, please? I have a second from Killian. Any changes or concerns about the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And that carries. Thank you. Number 2, discussion and possible action on the proposal received by Cherry Tree Dental for a development in the River Life area. Sean, would you like to go ahead and lead us off?
Sure.
I think it's over there to your right more.
All right, thank you, Tom. The first item up here is the proposal from Cherry Tree Dental for development in the River Life area. This is a project that came forth as part of the request for proposal that the city put out this past summer. This project was initially introduced at the April Economic Development Committee meeting, and at that time, after discussion from the council, there was some direction to staff to go back, work with the developer on revising the design for the project, work on revising the site plan for the project, and to work on designing some of the financial components of the project. The developer, Cherry Tree Dental, and its 3 associated dentists have been cooperative in working with us on all 3 levels here. The project remains, it's a $2.2 million, 6,100 square foot dental practice that, again, is being proposed for a portion of the Lot 2 in the River Life District. The design, as you saw from the materials provided in the packet, have been modified to be more urban. And excuse me, a little bit more background on the clinic itself. This is going to be consolidating the offices for 3 dentists that are already practicing in downtown Wasa. They've been looking for a site to remain in downtown Wasa, but had been unsuccessful in identifying a site that would be suitable. The practice itself serves about 13,200 patient visits a year, and those folks would be coming down to this location. Combining all these offices together, I guess, will provide the equivalent employment of 20 full-time staff with an annual payroll of $2.1 million, excuse me, in the downtown area. I guess a critical component of the proposal is also to link together this project with the eye clinic that's there already, as well as the Aspirus clinic that's under construction, or will be under construction in a month here, for a downtown medical campus that will serve the growing residential population of the downtown area. The proposal's coming forth. As I mentioned, there's been some revisions. Previously, the party had asked for a $1 land sale. They've agreed to pay $140,000 for their portion of the lot, which is equivalent with the amount that the city assessed. The city estimated the value of that parcel to be the portion that they're going to be using. They are, however, in exchange asking for $175,000 in tax incremental finance assistance to cover the costs associated with some extraordinary conditions in the soil for an improved foundation. The project itself is estimated to provide about $54,000 in tax revenue back to the city annually based on the 2019 tax rate, which would be a return of investment in about 3.5 years. So I do have Jack Young, who's the president of Cherry Tree Dental, here tonight. He can tell us a bit more about the project. He has the dentists, I think all three of the dentists from the practice are here tonight, as well as a representative from Keller, who is the general contractor for the project.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Sean. And thank you, committee members, too, for listening to us again. Just reiterating a couple things that Sean said. We have listened to the committee and taken feedback back to our proposals, and I think you see that in the revised drawings and site plans. We've also listened to the economic asks and environment, and we've adjusted those for really getting at the core of trying to just coming away with a buildable site for this project. We have looked downtown a lot and can't find a suitable location for what we're trying to do here in bringing these practices together. Practices are growing. They're out of physical space at this time, and really looking for the space in this project to enable their continued growth and be able to serve the downtown area. As you guys are aware, the majority of the dentists have been in this downtown location for many, many years, and their successors, their predecessors have been in the downtown area for many, many years. And this is what also drew Dr. Wen, who I want to introduce here in a minute and say a few words, to the downtown Wausau, to Wisconsin, and to the downtown Wausau area. It does fit nicely with the kind of burgeoning medical campus that's emerging downtown with Aspirus and with the eye clinic. There aren't dental offices downtown with the size and capability and capacity of what we currently do, or what our dentists can currently do. I think losing that would be a terrible blow to the downtown area. And I hope the committee sees that, recognizes that, and sees why we're so interested in maintaining a downtown presence here in Wausau. Sean had mentioned that, we will be bringing over 13,000 right now with the existing patient base that we have, 13,000 visits, exposures into the downtown area for local businesses and the other things that are going to be happening in the downtown area and the River Life area. That is going to continue to grow with the growth of the practice. We think that's a healthy thing. The project is probably in the grand scheme of some of the other projects down here on the smaller side of a $2.2 million project, but it is a significant contribution to that area. And we have modified our economic ask. Like I said, we're looking for a buildable site, and that's really what we've been working with Keller's to figure out what the what the soil conditions would require for us to, if it were located somewhere else, to go in there and start breaking ground and put up the type of project that we're looking for. So we're looking to pay a market rate for the land that we would like to use, and just some assistance with the additional costs that would be associated with the GeoPures. With that, I would like to introduce a relatively new, I'll say relatively new, our dentists tend to be longer term in Cherry Tree Dental. Dr. Wen Sun has been with us for 3 years, came to Wausau from the East Coast. Has become now one of our owner dentists in the company. I just wanted to introduce Dr. Wen and have her share a little bit of her experience in moving here to Wausau.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I failed to mention, when anybody does come up to the dais to speak to us, if it makes them more comfortable to take off their masks, that's fine, and then just put them back on as you walk away. You don't have to, but I'm just saying it's okay if you would feel more comfortable that way. Sure, come on up.
Hi, my name is Wen. I am a general dentist working with David at our Advanced Dental Professional Practice on Jackson Street. I've been working with Cherry Tree for about 3 years. Previous to this, to coming to Wisconsin, I'd never been to Wisconsin before in my life. So I used to practice in DC for about 3 years. Before that, I did a residency year in Ohio, and then went to dental school in Connecticut and college in Connecticut. So mostly from the East Coast. So when I was practicing in DC for about 3 years, it became very apparent to me that the cost of living was incredibly high, it was very crowded there. And so a few years in, I was talking to my husband, and I was like, well, I think it's time for us to move to the Midwest, where the cost of living is a lot more reasonable, and his stipulation was that we live near a curling club. And so I started contacting recruiters, and I said, well, we need to live near a curling club and have a decent-sized airport. So we found Wausau, and I was incredibly happy with how we were greeted. I remember the first night we landed, I couldn't even pronounce Wausau. We used to call it Wausau because we didn't know how to say it. And I even remember when we first got here, I couldn't pronounce Mozini, and people were laughing at me. But we got here, and everybody was so welcoming, and we're very excited about coming here. And so as soon as I moved here, we bought a house in the historic district. So we own a almost 100-year-old house, and it is a huge money pit. But we're very happy to be living here. I live about 2 minutes away from where I work, and we're very, very happy. When the concerts used to go on, we used to just walk over on Wednesdays and really enjoy the 400 Black. And living here has provided me the opportunity to really grow professionally. Being with Cherry Tree, I think, and working with mentors like David and Fred has really provided me a lot of growth professionally. I can, without a doubt, say that the quality and the caliber of care that we provide to our patients is amazing. I've worked with many dentists over the years, and what I've learned from them has been just leaps and bounds above all the other types of education that I've had in the past. So because of that, we really, truly have outgrown the space that we've been in for, I think, the building. 1970s. Yes. So now for the past few years, we've gotten really cramped. And what we've found is we have to be able to expand out and still offer the same caliber of care to our patients. But one of the problems is we need to stay really close to where our existing locations are. Because I think if we moved out to the Rib Mountain area or Weston or even the West Side, it would create a lot of chaos. I remember my husband, he went on a ride with the Wasa Wheelers, and the group leader had taken them down the wrong path or something. And one of the riders was like, "Aren't you from Wausau?" And she's like, "Well, yeah, but I'm from the West Side." So it just seems like if we're on the downtown area and we're in the East Side, that is what our patient base is used to. And for many generations, and even I think Fred, your family has been in the dental field for 3 generations, right? So we really can't move very far away, or this is going to disrupt a large patient base. So that is really, really important to us, and especially with a growing aging population that we're trying to serve with their healthcare needs, is really important to stay local. Besides that, I do think that having a state-of-the-art dental facility located in the River District is a huge draw for a lot of young professionals. I was reading, I think it was the life survey that Marathon did, where they looked at all the data of people coming and going and just trying to find what the trends are. And they said that the urban areas were taking a lot of the young, educated professionals away from places like Wausau, because the appeal of a more urban area supersedes their desire to live in a place like Wausau, which is unfortunate because there's a lot that Wasa has to offer. So for me personally, I think that when David and Fred eventually retire, be able to show a new young professional, hey, this is where we work, this is our state-of-the-art facility, this is the type of care that and caliber of care that we expect to provide for patients, it is going to draw folks to come and work here. In fact, the River District is, with the new apartments, even one of the new dentists that's actually working on the west side, he is living in one of the apartments in the River District that overlooks Wow, and he loves it there. So the whole environment, I think, is a draw for what type of professionals we want to bring in. Yeah, so that's pretty much, I just wanted to explain how important I think it is for us to be able to have our office built there. And we really don't have a lot of alternatives to speak of. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, and a belated welcome to Wausau, and a welcome to the east side where I reside too, so glad to have you as a neighbor. Go ahead.
So I just wanted to reiterate, the changes to the proposal that we've made, the kind of exterior look, inconsistencies with having an elevated building in the healthcare situation is just a non-starter for us to try to raise up the building or to, nest parking underneath where the water table is and things like that. It's just not something that we were able to design into the property just because of the nature of the soils and the nature of healthcare. We can't put stairs up, you understand, to the main entrance to our primary facility. And just in keeping with the character and the style of practices that we have, and just the lack of experience in our business managing a multi-unit or multi-business kind of a setting, it's just not something that was something that we wanted to tackle with this project. So that's the reason it's a standalone facility. But I want to thank you again for your time. If there's any questions or anything, be happy to address those at this time.
Sure. Well, first of all, I want to thank you and our staff, Sean and staff that kept working to address some of the questions that came up earlier with the committee. So appreciate your efforts, and I open it up to the committee. Alder Rasmussen.
Thank you. First, I guess, to all the proposers from Cherry Tree, thank you for being willing to take our feedback and literally go back to the drawing board. The design has improved by 150%. I mean, it's amazingly better for the area than the original proposal. I think that the way this has been restructured, all of the concerns that I had have been addressed. Our return on investment, given the fact that they're willing to purchase the parcel rather than secure it for $1, the fact that we can, we know that the soil challenges and geopiers are a challenge along the riverfront. That's not anything that we've not had to do on any other project. If we can structure that as a reverse TID arrangement, secure a land sale for the land rather than a gift, our return on investment is less than 4 years. That's really good. That's what we look for. I think that it does create, the project will create a campus of services for residents that we want to draw to our near north downtown. So, I don't feel like this revised ask is unreasonable, and I think that it is certainly something that, we should be able to approve. I'm actually very satisfied with the new design. I think the aesthetics of the exterior fit the urban setting much better than the original. And I think everything that we have asked for is here. So
Are you considering making a motion,
I-
or do you think that we will need to go into closed on this?
I don't see a need for closed session. I think everything is in the packet that we need to discuss, and it's, pretty much out on the table. So, I would make a motion to approve the revised proposal.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Is there a second on the committee? There's a second from Alder Killian. I see a hand from Alder Ryan.
Can you hear me? Good evening, I hope you can hear me.
Yes, yes, we can.
I guess I found out some additional information, and I guess I want to do the caveat too. From a very early age, my mother stressed how important teeth are. And when she passed at 90, she had all of her teeth. And she ingrained that into us children as well. I have been going to Dr. Bearjar on the west side, where he's in the professional clinic with Gadorzy, which they just redid the pavement. And this professional building is across the street from 2510, but it's on Stewart Avenue. And on the rear of the property near the new parkway is a new building that will house a mega dental clinic as well, which from my understanding this afternoon is also owned by Cherry Street Dental and will be opening in a week or two. So is that correct?
Mostly. There's two practices that practice on the west side of Wausau, Dr. Bearjar's practice, Dr. Gary Cole's former practice, now managed by Dr. Deborah Gerald's. Those practices are being co-located into a new facility in the Gadorzy building that you are referring to.
So when they move, that will become part of what Cherry Street Dental encompasses, correct?
We've been working with Dr. Bearjar for 10 years. We've been working with Dr. Cole and Dr. Gerald's now for 4 years. So those practices have been a part of Cherry Tree Dental, and we've been working with those docs for those periods of time.
But I was under the impression that once the move is made, there will be 5 doctors in this mega clinic that will be opening, on Stewart Avenue, that is being built right near the parkway, and that it will be under the umbrella of Cherry Street Dental, is what I was told this afternoon.
There's 3 doctors that will be working there, Dr. Bearjar, Dr. Gerald's, and a new doctor, Dr. Jardy. He just joined us from California. He's about a year out of school. Dr. Bearjar and Dr. Gerald's will continue to work. There'll just be 3 doctors there. Dr. Bearjar currently operates out of a facility with 6 rooms. Dr. Gerald's currently operates out of a facility of 6 rooms. The new facility will have 12 rooms, so it's no bigger than the just joining their 2 practices together.
Okay, I was under the impression it would be 5 doctors, I guess 2 with specialties, but in a very large space, and so could be comparable to what you're planning on the east side, or not?
Size-wise, yes. The facts of the numbers of staff or doctors, though, is entirely incorrect. There'll be 3 doctors in that location. There's 3 doctors right now that are contemplated in the location that we're talking about here with this committee.
Okay, Alder Ryan, I'd like to keep things going here. I mean, obviously, we have a large market here, and, these doctors are looking at, what the market will bear in terms of their services and whatnot. I see Dr. Frame
I
has had his...
understand,
Yeah,
I
Alder
understand,
Ryan,
Tom,
please.
but it's under Cherry Street Dental
Alder
is
Ryan,
what it will be incorporated as.
Okay,
So
please.
I have additional questions.
Would you yield for the chair,
Have you
please?
looked at the Sears property? That is on ground level. It is near the central bus station. We do not have the Aging and Disability Center located downtown. It is located in the same building that,
Okay.
but in the basement. And so.
Alder Ryan.
And then you
Alder
wouldn't
Ryan.
have the need to go ahead and have additional TIF funding.
I will have your microphone
But you
cut,
wouldn't
please.
be dealing with these contamination issues.
Okay, please cut the mic. Alder Ryan, I appreciate your participation in the meeting, but if you will not yield to the chair when asked, I'm going to have to ask you to stand down. Dr. Prane has his hand up and has had for a while, so I'd like to invite you up.
Chairman Neal and Economic Development Committee, my name is Frederick Prane. I reside at 1105 Highland Park Boulevard in Wausau, Wisconsin. I've been in town my entire life except for my education. I went to Madison and Marquette School of Dentistry. I just want to give the committee a quick brief background of my family and how it incorporates into what we're requesting. What you've done at the waterfront downtown is phenomenal. I've seen the worst, and now I'm seeing the best that Wasa can do. My family started practicing dentistry in 1921. We will be 100 years in town next May. The first building we bought was where the current mall is located. Right inside the door. It was bought in 1890. And then my grandfather started practicing dentistry out of the jewelry store in 1921. We've been here a long time. We chose downtown for various reasons. And as the generations went through, my grandfather, my father, and then myself, we kept putting up a map of Wausau and of central Wisconsin. We put pins on where our patients reside. We're east side dentists. Doesn't mean we don't service patients all over central Wisconsin, but we're east side. And so as my practice was, the building was no longer sufficient, and I came in Cherry Tree's employment about 3 years ago, I still own my practice on the corner of 5th and Jefferson Street, 413 Jefferson Street. And I was excited by the idea that Cherry Tree was going to invest in downtown. That's where I wanted to end my career. I've been mentoring a young lady from Wausau who's a sophomore at Minnesota School of Dentistry. And she's made it clear to me she wants to practice with me in Cherry Tree in downtown Wausau. So when the first proposal came to you, I saw the suburban look, and that was just the building that they had proven themselves to build already, shovel-ready, finance-ready, and ready to go. But I understood the council's and the committee's objection to the look. I get what you're trying to do downtown. I really do. You don't want to have a suburban look in an urban downtown setting. However, these patients living in downtown Wausau need health care. They need eye care, which is there, and they've sent a letter of support for a dentistry downtown. The Spires Clinic is going to service the seniors and all kinds of population, but the people that walk to their health care, what I call urbanites and senior urbanites, and they need dentistry. And this is like the third leg of the stool that I can see. So I don't want to take much of your time, but I'm encouraged that the committee is favorable, at least initially. Thank you for your strong consideration in this proposal. This is good for Wausau. This is good for the tax base. This is good for the citizens of Wausau. I don't see anything bad about this, and believe me, if I did, I would speak up. Everybody knows that I speak my mind. This project makes sense. It makes sense for the taxpayers. It makes sense for the river life. It makes sense for everybody. So I hope that the committee moves this forward to the council and we can get this project going. Any questions that you have of me?
Alder Rasmussen? No? Okay.
No, I have just a comment, though. I mean, in the last 2 times that we've considered Cherry Tree, I had some pretty big, loud questions about everything from land use to parking to design aesthetics. And, all of that I see has been addressed here. And so I'm ready to vote on the motion if you guys are.
Very good. Alder Killian?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Prane.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I just have a few comments, and I'd agree with Alder Rasmussen on her prior points. Early on, I felt that it was important, not just with this project, but really with any city-involved effort, that there be a public purpose. And I think that this does that nicely, and it's a public purpose that suits the common good to offer services in this area of the city, not just residential units, but offerings that residents can take advantage of who live nearby or even at a distance in town. And I also think the break-even point and ROI looks good for the city. So I will be supporting this. And just one unrelated point of inquiry, Mr. Chair, I just, with the kind of cessation of Alder Ryan's comments, I just wanted to, given I'm a relatively new council member, make sure that that was consistent with Robert's rules, which I am not sure of. Thank you.
It's a really good question, because, I don't have Robert's rules memorized by any means. But in terms of decorum, the chair, I think, has a lot of wherewithal to maintain, direction and decorum in the committee meeting, so. Okay, go ahead, Mayor.
Thanks. First of all, I want to say thank you to the Cherry Tree folks for presenting and re-presenting and working with the team to create something that's a little bit more palatable to our whole team. So thank you very much. And I'm excited to hear the positive reaction to this on economic development. And as far as just one point about chairing a meeting, you, as a chair, you are allowed to keep comments to the topic. They must be remaining germane. And just as a note, I can see Deb waving, Alder Ryan waving constantly, and it's a little bit distracting to everybody that's trying to pay attention to the presentation, so.
Thank you, Mayor, I appreciate it. And I see we have Alder McElhenney back on video there, so is there any further discussion in the committee? Hearing none, I think we're ready for a vote. All in favor of the proposal as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And none are. Thank you. And thank you, folks.
Thank you, committee, thank you.
Item 3 on the agenda is discussion and possible action on the proposal received by Adafix Holdings for development of multifamily housing in the near north neighborhood along North 2nd and 3rd Streets. Sean, would you like to kick it off?
Sure. Thank you, Alderman Neal. This again was a separate request for proposal that the city issued this past summer. This is for a redevelopment of the North 2nd and North 3rd Streets. There is 9, at first the proposal included 9 scattered parcels that were around the neighborhood. This was the only proposal that was received. It is a revision of a proposal that had come to the city back in the springtime. And my understanding, again, prior to my arrival with the city, my understanding was the Economic Development Committee had asked that the RFP be put back up again for consideration from developers. This proposal itself is from Adafix Holdings, Blanker Properties, that's done many of the developments around the community, Jason Blanker. It's a $6 million multi-tenant residential project that would develop 32 higher-end rental units in a series of buildings scattered across 7 sites that are in the city. We've determined that 2 of the properties, the 2 that are located on 3rd Street across from Short, that has the Stinchfield Creek culvert going underneath it, those, I believe, I don't know if Ann Worth is sure, my understanding is that historically those were acquired for the city by some foundations in the community, and with the intention of it being a public space. And I understand that the neighborhood uses those properties widely. It sounds like they probably should not have been included in the initial RFP, so for the purposes of your consideration tonight, we're excluding those 2 parcels and just talking about the 7 that are there. The drawings provided by Mr. Blanker were included in the packet for each of the different kinds of properties that he has. This proposal has been delayed as well for bringing back to the Economic Development Committee. Again, we were given kind of an edict to one, not sell the land for $1, which he had placed in his initial proposal. And so we've gone back to Mr. Blinker, looked at restructuring the financial ask on this project. Again, we're looking at 7 parcels that are on 2nd Street, and Mr. Blinker is looking at is offering $5,000 for each parcel. It'll be a total of $35,000 for those properties. The, excuse me, the TIF ask, or the tax incremental finance participation ask from the city is for $600,000, and this is, again, to accommodate a project, a redevelopment project in the neighborhood that just would not be able to happen financially without the scope of the city participation. As Mr. Blinker had said on Thomas Street, if he was looking to build a 32-unit housing facility, it would be easier to do so just by acquiring a simple 7-acre parcel rather than doing it on scattered, excuse me, on scattered sites throughout a neighborhood. Mr. Blinker and Adafix Holdings has kind of a track record in that neighborhood on 3rd Street, helped to reduce crime in the neighborhood, provided a bit of a surge in property value. And last point I wanted to make was, well, yeah, I guess that would be the project. I have not seen Mr. Blinker. I don't know if Mr. Blinker had joined us tonight, and I don't see him on WebEx, unfortunately.
Alder Rasmussen.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Just a couple of questions. The design aesthetic of this plan really does fit nicely with what they've already produced in that area with the townhomes that they've already produced along 3rd Street. So, I think that this really is a nice urban fit as far as the design. Assuming we would omit the parcels that include the Stinchfield Creek culvert area, these do serve a purpose where you would have some spotty, odd lots in some of these situations that are difficult to redevelop, and I think that these homes would fit nicely in that area. I guess with regard to his TID ask, the only concern I would have is that I am glad that he's paying for the parcels. I think $5,000 per parcel is fair, but, with a $600,000 TID ask, is that a primary TID or is that a reverse?
Nope, I'm sorry. The structure that it was laid out and on the term sheet provided in the back, he's looking at 50% of the complete and full increment for 10 years. So it would be up to $60,000 a year, and for 10 years out. Okay. And, yeah, and reversed it as soon as the project is complete.
Okay. I guess the only concern I would have is that they've not had any challenges with developing and leasing in the stuff that they've put up previously. A lot of it, including Thomas Street, leases as fast as they can build it. And so, I wonder if cash flow is as much of an issue with these projects in this area, because this area, other than some site access challenges where you're working between other buildings and with some odd lot sizes, is that challenge really there? I guess that's the question that I would have. It's certainly a smaller TID ask than what we've seen in the past from them, and it certainly doesn't include free land. But that would be the only thing that would give me pause. And we don't have him on video tonight? No? We don't. Okay.
And this might be something that would lead us to want to go into closed session to discuss some finer details.
Agreed.
I will state that, this neighborhood in question is in my district, District 4, and admittedly, it is a neighborhood that is in need of significant investment and upgrade. A lot of things have been happening in the periphery around it, but not, that much in it, except for the townhomes on 3rd Street. And it's nice to look at a project that can kind of address it in mass rather than, one at a time over time. So that also is, it leads me to be favorable towards this project. The details about city participation and length of that in terms of increment is something I think that we should be talking about in closed session, because I anticipate we might have to go back with staff to the proposer to just hammer out some of that stuff, so. I'm sorry? Okay. Alder McElhenney has her hand up. We'll get you on there.
Thank you. Since I'm not going to be able to be in closed session due to our wonderful pandemic, I want to make sure that that somebody talks about either now or when you come back from closed session about what the ask is also for the city to do Second Street. Was that part of the ask?
Right.
You
And
know, that
Alder
we-
McElhenney, you also will be able to be accommodated in closed session, so.
Oh, okay, thank you.
But no, but
Well,
you can go ahead, though.
okay, but I mean, does anybody, I mean, I guess that since it's public in here, I would literally like that addressed a bit before we go to close, you know, about what that would cost.
Right. I mean, the infrastructure, you know, that we would be investing in, you know, is significant city participation in and of itself. And, you know, we are probably close to a but-for justification here due to the scale of the project. But yeah, I'm sure we'll have more to talk about. Go ahead, Alder Rasmussen.
Thank you. The infrastructure back in there is kind of in rough shape, and I know that we've held off, at least in the SISM committee, on, you know, a whole lot of street improvements and reconstruction in that area just because of the nature of the reconstruction that's been going on. Because if you build all these things with brand-new streets and stuff in there, you basically destroy your streets with heavy equipment. So we have held on some of those projects, but Second Street through there is pretty rough. And I think whether or not this project comes, the time is coming where we're going to have to consider doing that anyway. So, you know, this may be a catalyst to move that up a little bit, but I don't see that as a bad investment because it's certainly not stellar. The other thing I would add is this neighborhood really has come a long way. When I first came on the council in 2008, we were just starting to look at the very early stages of some urban planning for what that area might look like and starting to acquire some land along the riverfront. And, you know, at that time, the mayor's dad and I were serving together. And I distinctly remember that, you know, he and my peers described that area at that time in its current state as, you know, a place where, you know, drug dealing happened pretty commonly. And, you know, that was a place where, you know, not a lot of people wanted to live. And, you know, some people were afraid to be out at night. And it's not that way anymore. I mean, we've seen essentially a complete transformation. But I think that doesn't mean that we want to stop moving that project or that area across the finish line in terms of urban renewal and, you know, really giving that area a shot in the arm and making it a place where people want to be and want to live. So, you know, I certainly could see a request like this, but I think, you know, we can hammer out in closed session a little more about the terms.
Very good, thank you. Alder Killian, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And as you pointed out, this is in your district, so as the representative, it does mean kind of a good deal to me and carry some weight, your opinion on how you feel about this and how those in your district feel about it. So you spoke to that a little bit, but am I taking it correctly that there is support for this and there's been no real significant apprehension about it? Would that be correct?
This neighborhood is not really, you know, well represented by a neighborhood group, really. There is a athletic park neighborhood group, which, and the attendees at those meetings tend to be from different parts of the neighborhood than from there. Due to some buildings, you know, going away, it's kind of sparsely populated at this time. So people affected in that immediate area are, you know, seemingly, you know, a few. I have not been approached by anybody, you know, for or against the project. So, I mean, and I always welcome anybody to do so. But other than that, I mean, I don't know that we necessarily have to go through like a public hearing process. You know, where we don't really do that for everything that comes along unless there seems to be something impetus driving us towards that, you know, that crossroads, so.
Thank you. And yes, I mean, your opinion is kind of what I was seeking as the representative that does that. And it sounds like there hasn't been any
Right.
substantial pushback on
Right.
this. So thank you.
And it really does, you know, I shun away from, you know, using the word gentrification, but it certainly represents a rebirth of a neighborhood. Alder McElhenney, do you have your hand up, or is it still up from before?
Sorry.
It's very, very understandable. That's fine. Okay, is there any further discussion on this item? I'm anticipating a request to go into close, so I won't ask for a motion at this time elsewise, unless somebody wants to volunteer one. Okay? Let's move on. All right, item number 4 is discussion and possible action on the request for tax incremental finance support by Westside Warehousing for a $6.5 million expansion at 835 South 66th Avenue. Mr. Fitzgerald.
Great, thank you again, Alderman Yell. The Community Development Department had been contacted back in, I want to say early August, late August, by Jim Peter, president of Westside Warehousing. Westside Warehousing has 4 locations out in the Wasa Business Park, and it does a lot of daily trucking between those 4 locations in order to get product around and handles the logistics. Mr. Peter is interested in consolidating those locations on one campus near his largest facility, which is on 62nd Avenue. His plan calls for acquiring property on 66th Avenue that abuts the backside, kind of immediately to the west of their largest location. And he's looking at building a $6.5 million, 143,000 square foot expansion at that facility. He's looking for tax incremental finance participation, and this would be out of TID 10, which represents the south side of Highway 29, of $500,000 to help with a few extraordinary components of the project. One, the project, as I indicated, is going to be creating $6.5 million in tax base, generating estimated annual tax revenue of $172,000. This proposal, excuse me, is going to be providing a unique enclosed rail transfer station for the trucks that pull in and out of his facilities, allowing, I believe it'll be one of the first in central Wisconsin, but it will allow rail cars to be loaded and unloaded onto flatbed semis in order to accommodate a better intermodal transfer in inclement weather, putting this under roof. I should note Westside Warehousing accommodates warehousing for about 40 manufacturers in the industrial park in Wasa, and it's a critical component in the supply chain for a lot of those companies that get their products out to the global market. So they really play a crucial role, and their growth really helps the growth of other manufacturers in Wasa. Mr. Jim Peter is here today to just give some additional details on the project. Did you want to come up now? Great, thank you, Mr. Peter.
Welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you, and thank you, Council, for allowing me to speak. I want to say that Sean and Ann are great cheerleaders for the city of Wasa, so I would keep them handy if you can. They're great people, and again, good cheerleaders for the city of Wasa. Let me just take a couple minutes of your time, kind of go through what we do at Westside Warehousing. So, like Sean had mentioned, we service between 40 and 50 not just the industrial park clients, but central Wisconsin. So we do the logistics and the warehousing for these firms. What they're finding out with trying to employ people with a shortage of people, that we do that for them. So we receive their product. They will give us a sheet and say, I want 10 pallets to Japan tomorrow. I want 14 truckloads to Japan, France, Singapore, wherever. We do quite a few exports out of the Wasa area, which is really nice to see that it's made here, right here in Wasa. But we had that unique opportunity. We started out in the 80s here in the industrial park. Love the industrial park. Love the proximity to the 39 and 30, Highway 51 and 29 corridors. So being 2 miles off of that interchange really works well for us. So we started out with one building, we filled that, that's 150,000 square feet. We purchased a second building, we filled that, that's an additional 42,000 square feet. I'm currently leasing 2 buildings in the industrial park, using just under 300,000 square feet for warehousing. We are continually growing. I'm sending my employees to 4 different locations, so you can see the logistics of that. It gets kind of strenuous trying to send people in different avenues. So if I can acquire the property next to me, and with your help, keep it under that 10 acres where they're just walking across the parking lot and able to keep their travel times to a minimum, it just makes everything more efficient for us. And we can continue to have the Wasa businesses enjoy our cost-effective. We're easy on their checkbook. We're a family-owned organization, and we're able to keep our minimums relatively small. So, as Sean had touched base, we are off of the rail spur in the Wasa West Industrial Park. We are the only warehouse in the Wasa West Industrial Park that actually has the luxury of using that rail spur. And CN, even though they are difficult to work with at times, we have a great rapport with them, and they're able to service us 3 days a week. With the additional property next door, with enclosing that, I've been turning away clients because the winter is brutal. We're unable to get that rail spur cleaned off with the snow and ice. So having it enclosed will be actually the only facility in Wasa that can back in a rail car, actually 3 of them, and offload. I'm getting quite a few calls from the Chicago area that need that with their Canadian clients. So they're looking for something between Illinois and Canada. We would be able to take that. We are continually growing, and we do need to expand. Like I said, we do like the Wasa Industrial Park, but we'll need some help. We're not a manufacturer, so we don't have the margins that a manufacturer has. And we're able, like I said, to keep our prices low because we are a family operation that watches the checkbook wisely. Again, thanks for your time. I think I wanted to keep it short here, but
Well, you know, if you got a good relationship with CN, maybe you could help us with some of our dealings with them. It can be challenging. I might have missed it in the packet, so excuse me if I did. Often when we're looking at public participation for like an expansion project, one of the first things we're going to be asking is, does expansion include new FTEs, to staff, your facility? If we see an appreciable, growth in your workforce, I mean, that's always looked upon pretty favorably in our discussions. So,
and that's a great question. We're going to be more efficient because I don't have to send them out to 4 locations. So where the new employee hire will not be the large numbers that I'm sure you would want it to be, we're able to take care of the large corporations that are in Wasa. And I keep our clients confidential, but these are your big Fortune 500 companies here in the Wasa area that we warehouse. So they're able to continue their growth here in the Wasa market because we're doing their logistics and warehousing for them. So where Westside Warehousing will not be able to add tens of jobs, we're allowing them to continue their growth instead of looking elsewhere.
very good, right, thank you.
Sure.
Alder Rasmussen.
Thank you. This is another one that, I don't know that we need to go into closed session to talk about. Our goal in this committee always has been to grow local and grow industry. And, anytime that a local business can consolidate their operations and get bigger and do more of what they do, that makes sense. I was just kind of trying to hammer through the raw numbers of this before our meeting today. And, if we look at the staff write-up that's in the packets, the parcel in question, right now we're looking at, taxable value of $950,000, that's paying $25,000 in tax. As developed, we'd be looking at $5.5 million and $172,000 in tax, estimated. So, that said, that's a huge appreciation and value. And, that even with our increment sharing and reverse TID arrangement really would put our return on investment there as well at, in the neighborhood of 3 to 4 years. So, I think that, the mechanics of this make sense. And I think that if we can, make an existing business larger and, bring their operations together versus in a scattered approach, this really makes sense to partner on. So I would make a motion to approve this proposal.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Is there a second in the committee? I see a second from Watson. It's really important for a city like Wausau to be able to provide logistic support in various forms, not only to your existing clientele. Do you feel an expansion also is going to enable you to service additional clientele?
Right, absolutely,
Very good.
absolutely.
All right, thank you. Alder Killian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for coming and providing some of this information. Even though it may not create, as you said, kind of large numbers of jobs, I am interested as to the quality of kind of jobs, compensation, benefits, et cetera. Could you tell me a little bit about kind of what your average payment is at your company? Do the employees receive benefits? Is it living wage?
Great question. So we start all forklift employees out at $15 an hour. Our highest is in their low 20s. Westside Warehousing gives them Gulf memberships. We take them out for our forklift certification a couple times a month, which is, sure, it's a forklift class, but it's normally at your Milwaukee Burger over some wings, and it's a good, we're family operated, and that's the way we want our employees to be, family treated. So yes, it is a living wage. I could have brought one of them along to, just to verify, but they enjoy working with us, and as we do enjoy having them work with us, so work for us. Yeah, yes, it is.
Thank you very
Yes, it
much.
is.
That's good to know.
Good question.
Very
Good
good.
question.
Thank you, appreciate it. Anything else from the committee? And is Alder McElhenney still with us?
Yep, she's on here, yep.
Okay,
I am. I just have to, just bear with me.
that's okay.
When I start coughing, I take my video off. Thank you.
That's okay. Just so we know you're with us, that's all. Any further discussion? And I don't really anticipate, as Alder Rasmussen said, a need to go into close, so all in favor of this proposal as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And was that an aye from Alder McElhenney?
Absolutely, aye. Thank
Okay,
you.
very good, and therefore none are opposed. Appreciate it, and thank you,
All
sir,
right,
for
thank,
joining
yes,
us tonight.
thank you.
Okay. All right, we'll have a short recess while Alder Watson exits the room.
Becky's cell phone number?
I don't know.
Lisa, do you have Becky's cell phone number? Okay, so when you guys go into closed, you can call her on that phone in there, and that will be the easiest way. She'll just need to make sure either she leaves the WebEx or she mutes and turns off her camera, and I'll tell her that too when you guys, before you go in.
Okay.
Would it be okay to ask you something while we're in recess, or should I wait?
Sure.
I just wondered, I mean, I'm sure it's fine, but with Mr. Gilbert on the line waiting, would it be possible to move him ahead in the agenda also? He doesn't have to kind of wait
Sure.
on it. Completely up to you.
Yep. Okay, at this time, if it's okay with the committee, I'd like to shuffle our agenda a little bit and bring our environmental justice discussion up next. This is to accommodate a visitor who will be joining with us, and then he doesn't have to sit there and wait for us to do all of our other business. So, and Alder Killian, thank you for bringing that to my attention. So sure, item 8, presentation and discussion on environmental justice. Alder Killian, would you like to kick this off for us?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, the environmental justice, I think, has been a topic of interest from the committee and from the city for some time, and I think it has the potential to, if integrated into frameworks and policies, to really provide some benefits for the city and for the citizenry. And so tonight, we really have the opportunity and honor of having a great presenter, the executive director of Midwest Environmental Advocates, Attorney Wilkin Gibbert. So it is a great pleasure that he's here to present to us tonight, and thank you very much for your time there. I'd really just like to open up the floor to him and thank him again for coming to present virtually tonight.
Sure. Welcome, Mr. Gibbert. We've carved out tonight in the area of 15 minutes, as this is our first really discussion on this topic. So this is really to inform and kind of get a awareness ball rolling, if you will. And I anticipate that we would be revisiting this topic in the future. So that being said, welcome again, and floor is yours.
Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks, Alder Killian, members of the committee. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we
Okay,
can.
great. And I've not presented with WebEx before, so just give me a moment here. I think that I could share my screen. Looks like I can. Are you seeing that?
Yes, we are.
Okay, great. Well, as Alder Killian said, my name is Tony Wilkin Gibbart. I'm the Executive Director of Midwest Environmental Advocates. And just as a little bit of background, MEA is Wisconsin's only public interest environmental law center. What distinguishes us is that we work directly with grassroots groups and local communities. We were founded over 20 years ago, and we were founded because in the mid-1990s, the Office of Public Intervenor was abolished. And folks may remember that that office was an independent agency within the Department of Justice, the Wisconsin Department of Justice, that served as a watchdog on behalf of concerned citizens and members of communities around Wisconsin over environmental decision-making. And it was an agency that was able to bring legal actions on behalf of concerned individuals and citizens who were facing adverse environmental consequences because of state decisions. When that office went away in the 1990s, our organization was founded shortly thereafter to fill that void, to serve as a watchdog over state environmental decision-making and to be a conduit to connect grassroots groups and concerned individuals with the legal system as it relates to environmental concerns. So we seek to be community-driven and driven by the concerns that folks bring to us, and we're honored and proud of our partnership with Citizens for a Clean Wasa and dozens of other groups like it across the state. As Alder Killian and the chair said, we're talking about environmental justice tonight, and I thought we would start with a definition. This definition comes from the current EPA website, so it comes from the current Republican administration. And I just note that to say that over the last 30 plus years, the principles of environmental justice have, broadly speaking, enjoyed bipartisan support. They're concepts that I think transcend some of the partisan division across the political spectrum. And as we talk a little bit more about that, I think it'll become apparent why. So this EPA says that environmental justice is the fair treatment and meaningful involvement of all people, regardless of race, color, national origin, or income, with respect to the development, implementation, and enforcement of environmental laws, regulations, and policies. And the EPA further says that this goal of environmental justice will be achieved when everyone enjoys, one, the same degree of protection from environmental and health hazards, and two, equal access to the decision-making processes that impact having a healthy environment in which to live, learn, and work. So just a couple of key things there. These, I break that down into a substantive component and a procedural component. So the goal of environmental justice is to have a baseline fairness, that everyone in a community has the same degree of protection from environmental and health hazards. And so when we talk about an environmental justice analysis, what we're really talking about is giving decision makers like this committee or other officials the ability to consider, when confronting a decision, who is going to bear the risks, if there are risks, the burdens of a decision in terms of environmental and health impacts, and who's going to enjoy the benefits, and then looking at the larger historical context to determine if that distribution of risks and benefits is fair. And then there's the procedural component, like the EPA definition alluded to. We want to promote to the greatest extent possible equal access to decision-making processes, processes that allow for folks who are going to be the most impacted to have meaningful input into those decisions. So just backing up and kind of taking a historical context here, the roots of environmental justice as a concept and as a set of aspirations started, or really can be traced back to the 1964 Civil Rights Act. And as many of you probably know, Title VI of the Civil Rights Act prohibits the use of federal funds in ways that discriminate on the basis of race, color, or national origin. And in the wake of that law, environmentalists and community activists were considering how it might apply to environmental issues. And so in the late 1970s, there was the first lawsuit based on Title VI that alleged that federal funds which were used in the siting of a landfill had a discriminatory impact because they were uniquely burdening marginalized communities around that landfill. Later in the late 1980s, the concept and the term environmental justice really took shape. And a seminal moment was the release of a report by the United Church of Christ that showed that toxic waste facilities were disproportionately sited in communities of color. And the report actually showed that you could predict, without knowing ahead of time where a toxic waste facility would be, by looking at the demographic makeup of a community. And so that was a really important insight. It was a report that turned a lot of attention to the accumulation of individual environmental decisions and the way in which there is a history of those decisions uniquely and disproportionately burdening marginalized communities. So in the mid-1990s, there was an executive order at the federal level to marshal the resources of the federal government to try to overcome those historical injustices and to turn federal decision-making towards this consideration of environmental justice, trying to promote moving forward a more fundamentally fair distribution of environmental risks and benefits. So in a nutshell, that's what we're talking about, this concept that is, at this point, has a lineage. It is focused on the disproportionate impacts of a pattern of environmental decisions, and it looks at the cumulative impacts. So, committees such as yours often consider things in isolation, and an environmental justice analysis turns your attention to, or turns the decision maker's attention to, those larger patterns. And it really focuses on what are the health consequences of environmental decisions? What does it mean for the health and wellness of communities? So I'm not sure if this, if you'll be able to see my video here. I'm going to try to play a quick 2-minute video to bring this kind of more into the present day. I may need to adjust. Let's see here. Give me 1 second. Okay. And you'll have to let me know if you hear the sound. Are you hearing the sound?
Can you turn it up? We can hear just a little bit.
Okay, let me do that.
Study saying COVID-19 deaths
Good.
correlated with
Better?
Yes.
Okay.
air pollution. In the national study, 2 local counties are referenced. WETV's Katie Petco reports as she spoke with the study's lead researcher today.
Researchers at Harvard University published a study that correlates COVID-19 deaths to air pollution.
According to earlier data about the characteristics of COVID-19 deaths across different countries, we find that vulnerable populations that's for the COVID-19 is also largely overlapped to PM2.5.
PM2.5 is atmospheric particulate matter that have a diameter of less than 2.5 micrometers, which, to put into a visible perspective, is about 3% the diameter of a human hair. It's an air pollutant that causes the air to look hazy.
COVID-19 is a type of respiratory disease. So in that sense, it's definitely related to the function of a human's respiratory system.
Wu and his Harvard team conducted the research in 3,000 counties in the United States, including all 55 of West Virginia's counties.
A few counties in West Virginia that have worse air pollution in terms of the PM.5 compared to other counties in West Virginia, Maroon County, and that is Monongalia.
Locally, Monongalia County leads the way with 81 cases and 3 deaths, which are associated with Morgantown's Sundale Nursing Home. Marion County comes in second with 38 cases and 1 death. Reporting for 5 News, I'm Kaylee Bedco, keeping you connected in West Virginia.
Okay, sorry about that. So that was a study that came out in April, right kind of in the beginning phase of the pandemic. And it very clearly linked that one's risk of mortality if they contracted COVID was strongly correlated with where they lived and the level of PM2.5 particulate matter air pollution in that county. And so what that shows is that the accumulation of environmental stress that is related to where someone lives, the community that they live in, makes them more susceptible, that there are life and death consequences to where facilities are sited and the level of pollution that one is exposed to. The important point, though, is, I mean, I think, COVID-19 and the pandemic has shown the dramatic consequences of environmental injustice. But it's important to know that those consequences were always there. They don't necessarily show up all at once when there's a stress like COVID-19, but they do show up in conditions, in the case of air pollution, like lung cancer and respiratory diseases and asthma. So we're talking about really tangible effects on the health and well-being of our community members. So that's just a quick 12-minute summary of what environmental justice is. Just some thoughts that I want to leave you with was why, as a committee, you should engage with this topic. I think when you get down to it, it's really about good government. It's about promoting fairness for all members of the community. It's about ensuring that decisions have ample public input, that members of the community who are going to be most impacted have the ability to participate. And it's about ensuring equal protection for everyone who lives in the community. Some other benefits is that when you, as a jurisdiction, attend to and consider environmental justice, that's going to be consistent with compliance with federal law. It's going to help with your Title VI compliance. It's going to be it's going to help with compliance when federal funds are being used. You're going to identify the health consequences of decisions that you're making proactively because you're going to be thinking about those issues on the front end. And those opportunities for public participation and input allow you to get the temperature of the community and understand their concerns and their views early on in a decision-making process. I want to, it's just the last couple of minutes, leave you with some ideas about what this might mean in concrete terms. A number of communities have implemented, this is speaking nationally, have had a health and environmental justice element of their comprehensive planning. And as you likely know, municipalities are required to do a comprehensive plan every 10 years under state law. There are 9 elements that you have to include, but state law does allow communities to include additional elements, and nationally, other jurisdictions have looked at environmental justice and health consequences in their comprehensive planning effort. Here's just an example from National City in California, where they included this as one of the 10 elements in their comprehensive plan and set a number of goals related to environmental justice and promoting health and wellness in their community through the environmental decision-making process. Another concrete idea is bringing that environmental justice analysis to the criteria that you use in when you're looking at RFPs for redevelopment. So I know that you have certain criteria that you already consider, and then I have here just model language from an organization that promulgated a model environmental justice ordinance for local jurisdictions. And this can just be one of the factors that you consider when looking at a proposal. And when you're talking about a proposal that a redeveloper or a business has invested a lot of time and attention in presenting to you, I think it's fair to ask that they also present some information related to the environmental impacts and what it might mean for the community in terms of environmental risks and benefits. So it's not necessarily information that the city always has to go out and collect for itself. It's information that you can ask of people who are and entities that are asking for the city to support a redevelopment project or an additional proposal. And then just a couple of other ideas. The zoning process, I know that's not necessarily this committee, but it's another function of city government where environmental justice really can be brought to bear. So when, for certain conditional use permits in the city of Wausau, especially when you're talking about a large development, the city asks for a fair amount of analysis as part of that permitting process. And one of the things that the city is trying to consider is whether the conditional use will be detrimental to public health. So that's an analysis that you can ask for when considering a conditional use permit, and it can factor into the decision-making process. I also, another Fulton County in Georgia, they ask when someone is trying to apply for a amendment to the zoning map to bring that environmental justice analysis to the decision maker. Zoning and how we lay out industrial, agricultural, residential, commercial uses has very, very significant environmental justice impacts. And so it would make sense that that would be something that the decision maker would consider in those types of processes. And then finally, taking a look at the decision-making processes that you have as a city and considering where you could improve the quality of public input. And, that can involve things like language access, that can also include how and what mechanisms there are to proactively reach out to members of the community who might be most interested in a proposal. And so I have here just a snapshot or a screenshot of the Wisconsin DOT Facilities Development Manual, which applies to certain transportation projects. But this comes really from that federal executive order that I mentioned earlier. And so it's a good guidepost of practices and a checklist of things that you can do as a jurisdiction to make sure that you're providing those ample opportunities for community input. So thank you so much for allowing me to come in today. I would just say that we're ready and willing to present additional ideas or to work with the committee as you explore this topic further. So I have my contact information there.
Very good. Well, thank you, Mr. Gibbard. I appreciate it. I'm sure to a certain degree, many of the things that you've outlined are probably woven into our processes, but maybe not to the level of detail or in the language that we're seeing, right now. I would invite Alder Killian to work with the administration to continue to look at our processes and find instances where we are lacking this sort of consideration in what we do, how we do it, and how we might, change those processes to address, these legitimate concerns. So, Alder Killian, would you like to wrap it up?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Gibbard, for presenting today. It was a very useful and timely presentation, and thanks to Midwest Environmental Advocates. And also, I'd like to thank the committee and the administration for helping to facilitate this initial discussion. And I think I certainly will, and perhaps others can circle back with you and MEA with maybe additional questions. But thank you so much for helping us start this dialogue tonight. Greatly appreciated here in Wausau.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate the committee's interest and your interest, and again, willing to be in dialogue and conversation about how we can support your efforts.
Thank you.
And the mayor has been with us throughout this presentation. I would invite Madam Mayor, if you'd like to interject anything at this point.
Sure. Thank you so much for the presentation. This is great. I know this is something that Alder Killian has been talking about since before he was an alder. So I'm excited to start this discussion. You brought up a lot of good points, especially thinking about Plan Commission and things like that. So I hope that you don't mind if we bother you for maybe this presentation. I don't think that we have any other communities in the state with an environmental justice type resolution. So this would actually be pretty groundbreaking for our state, not just our region. So I'm excited to start moving forward with some of these recommendations. So thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And yes, I'm excited by the opportunity too, and would be happy to address some of the other committees if that would be helpful.
Well, thank you, Alder Killian, for getting this done. I'm excited to get started.
My pleasure.
It would also be nice to maybe cross-pollinate with the county to, give this a broader scope.
Let me at that county. I'm ready.
Yeah. Okay, thank you again, Mr. Gibbard. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, may I just briefly, because I told the citizen I would, the email, just make note of it very quickly. A citizen, Mr. Christopher Norfleet, had emailed about the environmental justice topic and really took some time to express his feelings. I know we're short on time. I've printed it and given it to the committee members, so just wanted you to know about that and thank Mr. Norfleet for sending that in.
Thank you. We'll enter that into the record and hopefully make that publicly available. Okay. Circling around, back to item number 5, discussion and possible action on the issuance of a request for proposal for the Thomas Street Phase 2 Remnant Parcels. Mr. Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Tom. At the last Economic Development Committee meeting, the committee gave the staff or the Community Development Department the task of looking at a redevelopment proposal for Thomas Street in the wake of the community meetings that were held back in August, and then some of the discussion that happened at the September 1st Economic Development meeting in regard to the proposal that came forward from Adafix Development. It was clear that we're given the direction, I guess, that the proposal should be for single-family owner-occupied homes and be for homes that fit consistently within the neighborhood. Our staff has had several discussions, and in fact, it used quite a robust representation from the community development staff, and came up with a plan that's included in the memo in your packet. Essentially, we are asking for some direction or approval from the committee to go forward with a request for proposal, seeking 5 or 6 single-family houses. There are 6 properties that are located on an area where we focused on between the blocks, the East Thomas Street block between Emter and Cleveland Street on the north side. There's a retention pond on 2 of those lots. There are 6 contiguous parcels. We are recommending a plan that would have no driveways coming out of those, but rather access to a alley in the back that would be expanded. And then there is one privately owned property, and then a kind of a final property owned by the city on the far end, in which we're proposing to build a turnaround on the road for the snowplows and trash pickup facilities that would then use that alleyway to access those residences on that area. The proposal, we're recommending a land sale price of $6,500 for each parcel, for each of those 6 parcels, to include that within the RFP. The city does own quite a few home designs for various properties that are around the Sherman Street area. I know Anworth has showed me them all over the community, but projects that have been done in collaboration with North Central Technical College and its building trades programs over the years. That program's no longer in place, but the city still owns those architectural designs and is happy to make them available to the developers. The lots themselves in that area are a little bit shorter than standard city lots. They're the same width at 60 feet, but they're 107 feet deep compared to the normal 120 feet deep. We would be seeking an RFP that could go out on October 26th. We would ask for that to be due on December 11th, and that would allow us to bring a recommendation back for the January 5th, 2021 Economic Development Committee meeting. We have, I can say, the building inspection department, when they have home builders come in, they've been bringing up Thomas Street to them. It's already generated quite a bit of interest. We've had 4 different single-family housing developers that have approached community development that already know that they will be on the list for any RFP when that goes out. That's very positive news at this point, and we certainly would anticipate getting others as well. The estimated property tax coming in annually, we would figure it at about $24,000, $25,000. It's hard to put a value on what the home sale prices would be for these properties, but right now we're seeking and using the language of attainable homes, attainable housing for that area. So we're looking for some direction from the committee based on that proposal for an RFP.
Thank you, Sean. Do we anticipate the alley sort of becoming a street or remaining an alley, and so then maintenance, would that fall on the city, or are we asking that it fall on the developer? Snow removal and such.
Yeah, as far as And I don't know if you can offer some input on that. We have had, we have had the city surveyor out there to just ensure that it will be wide enough and have appropriate easements. I don't know if you, can you help answer?
I can.
Ann, what some
It's
components
a
of
little bit under discussion yet at this point in time, because we looked at the alley that the city did for the townhouses between Short Street and DeKalb Street, and that was to make sure that they were take care of it. We are tentatively looking at, it will be an alley, and we've looked at it from both standpoints, where it would be it's going to stay an alley. It's not going to be a street. It's an alley. And whether the city plows that or it's privately done by those owners there is yet to be decided. We've looked at it from both standpoints to see, and that's why we want to make a turnaround on that other end. And Tom, maybe you can help me. Are the garbage cans right now put out on Thomas Street?
Yes, they are.
Okay, okay. So, I mean, this could do the same thing, and then it would be private, because we don't, as you know, we don't want to add maintenance to the DPW department. So, but that's, but one of the proposal would be that the city would blacktop that alley.
So we would do, offer to do some improvement to the alley?
Yes.
Okay. Very good. Anything else from the committee? Alder Rasmussen.
Thank you. I'm glad to see this proposal come forward. Obviously, it's more in parity with what the neighborhood wanted to see. And, I think overwhelmingly, they came out and spoke to us that they don't want to see the $7 million high-density type housing project that we had first considered for that area. That said, the only thing I would ask is, as a committee with this RFP, do we want to stipulate as a condition of the RFP that we would want these houses to be constructed as slab on grade without excavated basements? Because there has been a lot of concern in this neighborhood about stirring up soil.
I think that's a must.
And so, a lot of the blanker plans that we've seen around town are constructing slab on grade, and there's not a basement. The mechanicals are on the main floor. I think that would mitigate some risk if people are concerned about that. And so we could certainly put that into the criteria for this, assuming that these would sell for under $150,000 in some realm. I mean, even though, they're a smaller house with a smaller yard. I think if we would stipulate that, that may also help with the selling price too, because the construction cost would be a little bit less.
Sure.
So if that could be incorporated, I guess, if the rest of us agree on that.
Could I
Pam?
speak to that? I'm sorry, we didn't put that in there, but we would be having them on slab on grade because of the environmental in the area. As far as the price, we didn't put a price on them. We did look at the prices on the houses on Sherman Street.
Yep.
And the lowest sale on those was $179, and the top was $191.
Okay.
So it's a real variable right now because of all of the construction costs have gone up so extremely high so fast.
Right.
So that's why we want to make them attainable. That's why we want to make it available, but we can't guarantee a price. And then looking at what they have on Sherman Street, that really kind of gave us a real look into the market as well for the new building.
Those prices, or at least those selling prices, are slightly above what we expected those to be. The ones on Sherman that are adjacent or across from
certainly
public
was
service.
surprised by it.
We figured those would be 30,000 under that. So
Yeah.
good to know, I guess, that the market is to that point, but not that we would stipulate a value, but I
No.
mean, just if you were to throw a dart and guess, you would think that they'd be somewhere in that neighborhood. But I think not excavating a basement there makes sense, but we should make sure that the builders that are proposing are clear on that.
You bet. Anything else from the committee? Before Alder Killian, one question I would have is, if we move to, issue RFP, are we looking to review the language of that RFP as a committee, or leave that to staff to craft that and get it out?
If they address the basement and slab issue with what they have here, I think
It's sufficient.
they're where we want them to be.
Sure. Alder Killian?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I agree with everything that's been said on this topic. And yes, in terms of basements in that area, I also agree that it would be better not to go there. I mean, the DNR and TRC or Waleco may say that there's no issue, but frankly, with the lack of extensive vapor intrusion studies there and so forth, I'd certainly agree with not going with the basements. And I'd also like to say that I think this is a very positive step forward, I mean, between the city and the southwest side, and what's in the past is in the past, but I think this does show that, you know, economic development and community development are not mutually exclusive, and I thank the committee and the administration, because this will mean something to residents in that ward, as well as I think the city at large, and I would call it not just an effort, but a historic mending between City Hall and this area, should this go smoothly and successfully, so thanks again.
Would you like to put that in the form of a motion?
I would make a motion to move forward with issuing the RFP, and if I need more specific language.
No, that's sufficient. Sure.
Second.
I have a second. Further discussion? Seeing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And Alder McElhenney?
Aye.
There you go. It's unanimous. Thank you very much.
And may I just get clarification, we were able to go forward with an RFP that includes everything in here, as well as just noting a slab on grade without a basement will be appropriate. Okay, great, thank you.
Very good. All right, moving to item 6 on the agenda, sort of a novel discussion topic for us tonight, discussion and possible action on creation and implementation of a Wausau Poet Laureate program. Madam Mayor, would you like to take the kickoff on this?
I would love to. So this is one of those kind of fun things that encourages participation in the arts from everyone in Wasa. And I thought it would be fun to create a Poet Laureate program for Wasa. The idea kind of struck me as we were going through the protests during George Floyd March. And I thought, man, it would be nice to have somebody who could comment on this, maybe from a depth of a space that it feels like it's hard to reach when you're commenting on it as a political actor. So it kind of struck me. I did a little bit of research. The program that this is based off of is actually based off of a Tacoma, Washington program. I spent some time talking to their folks. They're kind of a partnership with their library, which is a little different setup than we have here in Wasa, but I will tell you, I talked to some folks at the library and the folks that put on the Wisconsin Book Festival, and they're really excited to help facilitate this in any way possible. I know that our interim economic development director, Brad Lenz, presented this to the Arts Commission, and they were so excited and ready to go full steam ahead. And you can see in the proposal that the request would be for the Arts Commission to create a panel of judges to help us select the Poet Laureate, and then that term would be 2 years, kind of a nominal stipend for the art they would create on behalf of Wasa. So I don't know if there are any questions for me, but I'm excited about this.
No, I welcome the idea. You did mention it to me some time ago, and I'm curious to see how it fleshes out. And I think it's important to have the addition of a voice that is like a recurring voice that can verbalize important things on behalf of the city and on behalf of the community. So, committee? All right, do I have a motion to approve the proposal? I have one from Watson. Do I have a second? I have a second from Killian. Further discussion? Seeing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I have an aye from Alder
Yes,
McElhenney?
you did.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Awesome, thank you.
You bet. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Moving along to item number 7, approving city's waiver of first right of refusal to repurchase property at 5801 Packer Drive from Ideal Properties of Central Wisconsin LLC, FKA T&L Properties of Wausau LLC, to Gore Enterprises LLC. Will you unravel this for us?
Sure. This is, actually, it's much more simpler than it's spelled out in the agenda here. This is just simply a building the city previously owned a number of years ago. It had been acquired by a private entity for use as office space, multi-tenant office space. The seller of, or the owner of the property is putting it back on the market. They have found a buyer in going through the title work with the title company. It was noted that the city had the first right of refusal on this property if it wanted to take it back. You'll see from the packet materials, the current private purchaser is paying a market rate for it. It's a property worth market rate. The city doesn't have an interest in executing that first right of refusal in this case, and is recommending waiving that. I know City Attorney Ann Jacobson, I believe, is with us as well on WebEx if there's any additional questions.
Alder Rasmussen.
Thank you. This actually, so often for us, really almost amounts to a housekeeping item on all of our properties that are in or about the business campus. We always have this right of first refusal caveat on the properties so that, partly I think it's to verify that we're at least seeking appropriate land uses. But however, when the city doesn't have, either the interest or a use for a parcel of property, I can't recall a time that we have ever exercised this right. We've always waived it off and let the private sector sell to one another. So unless the land use would be something that was really, really subpar, I mean, there's no reason not to. So I'll move to approve.
Thank you. Is there a second? I have a second from Alder Killian. Sean, can you speak to the proposed purchaser, their intended use, even in, ambiguous terms?
I can turn it over to Attorney Jacobson, but my understanding is that it's going to remain office space, multi-tenant office space.
That's fine with me. So certainly don't have an interest in owning the property. So, fine. Anything? Okay, so we had a motion and we had a second. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that's unanimous. Now, if I could have somebody volunteer to read our motion to go into closed on the one item outstanding.
I'll volunteer, Mr. Chairman. I'll move that we go into closed session pursuant to Chapter 19.85, Paragraph 1, Sub E of the Wisconsin statutes for deliberating or negotiating the purchase of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session for the purpose of considering the proposal received for Edifix Holdings in the near north area of North 2nd and 3rd Streets.
Thank you. Do I have a second? I have a second from Watson. We do a roll call vote on these. So Rasmussen.
Aye.
Watson.
Aye.
Killian.
Aye.
McElhenney.
Aye.
And I say aye. We will go into closed. Thank you.